Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Thursday. I hope you are thirsty for some pro wrestling punditry. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, joined here as I am every Thursday, returning to doing this live with me. None of this pre-recorded preview bullshit. No, this is the real deal here today. Paul Pratt. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Good to be back live with you on a Thursday morning.
Not that what we did was bullshit, because like the previews actually did really well and they were really good, but there's just nothing like being live, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love our viewing audience, and I love how interactive they are with us, the kind of responses they give us in real time, as well as our ability to look at the mailbag. So I really enjoy all of those things.
Yeah, dude, this is a three-dimensional texturized show programming, bit of content we have here.
Yeah, that's right. Three-dimensional.
I don't know what that was. I'm glad you caught it, because I thought I said it, couldn't tell. Anyway, we're off to the races, people. The chat room is open right now. Hardcore Paradise here. Hello, good people, says Hardcore Paradise, as does Kevin Dunne's teeth. He says hi. I don't know. That seems mean, right? Don't drag Kevin Dunne's teeth, right? Anyway, the chat room is open. Dive on in. Leave your comments as we go along on the show. YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, wherever you're watching us, you can leave a comment. We get all of them right here. We'll pull them up on the screen just like I did that. Later on in the show, if you are listening to us in audio form, you're going to get to hear Andy Malnoski's conversation with International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame President Seth Turner. It's a big weekend for the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. They're going to be doing their inductions. There will be a ceremony for Terry Funk, and Andy Kaufman's going to be going in. I'll be going out there to hang out with Bill Apter. I'm told Virgil will be there, so probably going to get some more of that sweet, sweet meat sauce content. You know you love it, Paul. You love it.
Oh my God. That poor gentleman.
What do you mean?
But God bless him. God bless him. You know, I guess that when your legacy in pro wrestling is basically having mostly been somebody's manservant, you know, you just have to redirect the conversation.
Hey,
you know,
this man was in the NWO. He was $1 million champion, right? Virgil had some moments.
Virgil was a fantastic talent before WWF brought him up to be, you know, he had real potential down in the South.
You know what? I really do wonder, you know, as I brought to, it's weird that I say Andy Kaufman, Virgil, those names back to back. And we have some huge news to get to here. By the way, mailbag later on. We're going to look at Vince McMahon stuff here. It was his birthday yesterday. But I wonder, is Virgil a low-key winner of like the Andy Kaufman Award? Like, I think he does more kind of abstract kind of comedy, avant comedy, than probably anybody else in pro wrestling right now. Virgil may have the Andy Kaufman mantle right now.
Do you think that it's intentional?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Okay.
Here's my theory on Virgil, based on, and I don't want to pull back the curtain, and I don't want to ruin the aura of Virgil or anything like that. But from what I know of Virgil and I know of the people around Virgil, Virgil seems like he's got a pretty normal life. I'm wondering if he didn't meet up with some kind of ad agency or marketing agency that's like kind of a little more rowdy, let's put it that way. And this isn't like he's more of a vehicle, because like there's always something attached to it. So I don't think Virgil's nuts. I think he might be slyer than a fox, honestly. I think that, you know, there might be something more to it here with Virgil.
In that case, then more power to him, because, you know, I look at somebody like the Iron Sheik, who I find is one of the most hilarious followers on Twitter, you know, and say that if you can harness this and turn it into a gimmick late in life, then go for it. By the way, Iron Sheik, one of the funniest followers on Twitter, the Brooklyn Brawler of all people, probably the most inspirational follow on Twitter.
There you go. Okay, awesome. Good Twitter follows here. Hey, you know what? We're not done talking about Virgil. We're going to talk about Virgil more in the mailbag. I don't want to get too ahead of myself here today, so more Virgil content incoming. And by the way, before we get to the news here, friend of the show, Pat McAfee, he revealed yesterday that he's tested positive for COVID-19. Obviously, just want to send our best out to Pat And, a reminder, everybody, this thing is still very real. There's still lots you could be doing to take care of yourself and the people around you. Pat has been a joy on SmackDown commentary, and it bums me out that we're not going to get to hear him this week call the action.
Yeah, he is actually fantastic on SmackDown commentary. I think that having seen what he was able to do as an in-ring performer and, kind of like bridging that gap or whatever, I think that's real talent there.
Yeah. So sending our best to you, Pat. 104.5 degree temp, I think, is what he called in yesterday. Sounds gnarly, right? You can make tea with that skull. So anyway, let's get to it here. News you can use. News will leave a bruise. Man, my phone lit up last night. I was watching Dynamite on about a 10-minute delay because I decided to make a nice dinner for Liz and I because, she was going to be watching wrestling. And so anyway, on Dynamite, CM Punk cuts this promo. Pretty standard. Not anything really different than what he did on Rampage, except at one point, the fans start doing the yes chant. Very excited for Punk. He says to them, that's somebody else's shtick, and you might just need to be a little more patient. So that was an obvious nod to the Daniel Bryan signing room, pretty much kind of confirming the reports of our good friend Cassidy Haynes over Body Slam, yeah?
I mean, I definitely think that they're alluding to it, and so far, when they've begun to allude to things of this nature, they pan out.
Yeah. So after the show, Punk took to Instagram stories. He posted a close-up image of a handshake, and the picture is from a 2004 Ring of Honor match between CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, the first time the two would square off in ROH. The match was officiated by WWE Hall of Famer Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and concluded with Punk submitting to Danielson's abdominal stretch. So, in his promo that he did on Rampage, the one I think that was probably a little hotter than what we got on Dynamite, because it was the first one. But he said 2005. That's when he stopped being a pro wrestler. So this is more kind of leaning in to what he teased there over on Dynamite. Yeah.
I mean, I think that we're going to see everything that they're promising, and I think that ultimately what we're seeing here is, they literally said on their broadcast, if you watched on Rampage on Friday and you're joining us for the first time, welcome. And I think that they're aware that this is bringing new eyes to the product, and they're doing a pretty good job of showcasing the talents.
Yeah, very good, man. They just, last night's Dynamite just flew by. I thought that putting Punk right in the middle, I loved, Brock Anderson, Malachi Black is not like a marquee match by any stretch, but the story they told going into it, we all knew what was going to happen, and maybe that's what made it so satisfying,
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we did not see this like heroic battle, you know what I mean, type of thing.
Right.
He went in, he was slaughtered. We knew what was coming for it. It was played out exactly as it should, and it put a lot of eyes on that young kid, but it told a great story.
Yeah. By the way, I see somebody here. I don't want to keep putting it up because I feel like you're making fun of somebody. You're bullying them. You do have good comments, but I'm going to ask you to change your name, Kevin Dunn's teeth, right? Because I feel bad saying it. He says Houseman also he wrote Adam Cole's initials, Bray's initials on his shoes. That was something that came out. I think we might just have it up on the site now, but I don't know if you've seen the photo when Punk was on Rampage, in like a little part of his shoe, like on the bottom part in white, he has the initials AC written on one shoe, and he has BW on the other shoe. And a lot of people wondering now if that's more like this was him teasing Daniel Bryan here. Maybe he's teasing Adam Cole and Bray Wyatt could be the next ones to kind of walk through the door as well, I think is what everybody's speculating right now.
I love the fact that, I mean, if they're putting all this thought into it and all these Easter eggs, the more power to them.
Right.
And for the people who are sitting at home who have enough time to like zoom in on people's shoes, good for you too.
Dude, it's like, it is. It's one of those things. It's got to be a high-res camera, and you got to go real small. And I'm wondering, too, because it's such a minor thing. I mean, great. If it's a tease for Adam Cole, Bray Wyatt, awesome, right? Obviously, there's talk like Bray and Braun, I've heard maybe also off to Impact land here, which is an interesting move with a lot of backstage politics that I only know a little bit about. I don't want to get like too much into before I kind of know the whole story, but that's a really fat, like, if Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman wind up in Impact Wrestling, that's really telling of how saturated and how many spots there are right now and how competitive they are at the moment, Paul.
Well, yeah, I would think so. And, you saw, I'm sure, that video where Scott D'Amore said something, we're only X number of days away from Braun for Glory.
Yes, it's what I'm saying. There's like a little tease of that. I've heard, maybe a little bit more to that as well. But again, it's like I don't know how much I want to say or not say right now. But there's something going on with Bray, Braun, and Impact and AEW. There's a little dance, I think, happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a part of it, of course, I would speculate is the fact that they have all these great working agreements. So if somebody goes to Impact, they have the opportunity to spend a lot of time probably on AEW television. There's that great opportunity for them to work in one place where they're going to get a more solid spot on the roster probably, but yet still have the ability to cross promote.
But it's just not the same, right? Like
no, it's not the same, but
it's like saying, oh, you're an OVW, I guess you're part of WWE. It's like, no, OVW was never going to be on the, as great a talent. Don't get me wrong. OVW produced some of the biggest stars in the business, but it's not the same, New Japan, I would like a Bray Wyatt in a New Japan space. It enthralls me more. I'd love to, especially with that kind of kabuki mask imagery he released not long ago. I thought that was really kind of maybe a nod to him wanting to do something with Japan, so.
But, I suppose that there's a lot of ways to look at this too, because I think that first of all, for somebody like Bray Wyatt, who's doing this, kind of character that's very unique and sort of creates its own space mentally in terms of our willing suspension of disbelief and all of these things, we've seen a great deal of that already happen in Impact Wrestling. And both of these men presumably are loaded financially. So, So, for them at this point in their career, what if the idea of being able to tell the stories the way they want to tell them and just sort of live in this space of wrestling without having a tremendous touring schedule, without having these other things, and the idea, that they may have that they could be a greater impact, pun or otherwise intended, in Impact than they could somewhere else. They will be a bigger splash, a bigger fish in a smaller pond, and maybe they want that.
I do wonder, if Bray, and it's really, it's just a lot of speculation with Bray right now, especially since his 90 days not done. I don't think he can honestly, in good faith, even talk to people right now while he's still under contract. So, it is kind of broad speculation, but with his pedigree as a rotunda and time in the business, and like you say, this guy's got to have put some money away. I don't know that I don't want to say he could create another AEW, but would he want to do other avant wrestling projects or shows that are not in the typical vein of what somebody who got released from the company has done? Ethan Carter's kind of, EC3's kind of played around in those waters to kind of mix success, but I'd really be compelled to see what a Bray Wyatt product looked like. I don't know if that does anything for you.
Well, I think that the Bray Wyatt product is Bray Wyatt. And I think that if he went someplace where, he would probably have almost total creative control over what he does, or where he was really truly valued because of the name recognition that he has, he could create that space wherever he goes. That's what I would think. You know what I mean? And like I said, the one distinct advantage over a place like Impact versus an AEW is that he would get to fly off for a week of TV tapings and then, sit at home for a few months, unless he wants to take other bookings somewhere else, which he may not do. I just don't know where he's at mentally right now.
Yeah.
We kind of questioned that. He does have a newer baby at home, so there's a lot of factors at play here.
So also I'll bring up, and we're going to get back. We have some more CM Punk stuff to talk about here. This all kind of is becoming a kind of, not that I mind, a fluid conversation about free agency. And, and we have more about free agency here in a little bit too. But I do think that Stank Boy, one of my favorite new handles, by the way, with Keanu Reeves, Jesus. He says the Dark Order arguing recently also sets up Bray in AEW. And it kind of seemed out of nowhere what happened on Dynamite last night with Alex Reynolds and Evil Uno, did it not?
Well, to some degree, but we've also seen it. We saw something similar teased a couple of weeks ago where, the loyalty to Adam Page has started to cause a fissure there in that organization, because he demanded that they stay away, and then some wanted to go and others said no. And so the fissure, that division, that break has started a while ago. I think also, perhaps they're just recognizing that the Dark Order has way too many people in it. And if they want to shine a spotlight on any of these people, some of them may need to go somewhere else.
Yeah. And, I don't know. And maybe this is just me because I'm like way too close to it and I see patterns where maybe I shouldn't see patterns and things like that. But one of the stories I keep going back to, just because I know them, is the CM Punk Colt Cabana thing, right? And this was, I mean, I don't know what the schedule looked like, who was in the building when, but this would seem to be the first time those guys shared space in some time. And it's the first, and on that show, it's the show where Cabana's stable starts to fall apart. I don't know. It's just something that crossed my mind as a note. Maybe nothing, maybe something. I don't know. But it was it is something I took note of, Paul. I'll put it that way.
Well, it's interesting to me because I scarcely associate Colt Cabana with the Dark Order anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
He is somebody who of course, he's been hanging out with them and all this stuff, and they recruited him. That was a whole storyline where they were recruiting him early on. But did he actually join, or is he just sort of like hanging out? You know what I mean? Like, he is not somebody that I consider a core member of the Dark Order. That honor goes to, people like John Silver and Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, Preston Vance, right?
It was weird because, like, after Brody passed, because, like, his whole thing was he was kind of like friends with Brody, but not friends with Dark Order, right? And then it was going to build to something, but then we never found out what that something was going to be. And then he had to do the Brody tribute show, and then, was at that point so entrenched. It's like, well, I guess that's just where we're going to be going. And also, we don't really know at what point Tony and Punk were really starting to talk. It sounds like it could have been right around that time as well. That's when Cabana just starts to kind of float, right? Again, I don't know if I'm seeing things that aren't there. But, then there comes the Adam Page thing where Adam Page starts to do a really similar storyline to what Cabana was doing, which was, I like you guys, but I don't want to be in your group. And at that point, Cabana is just left dead in the water and adrift, right? And I'm just saying it like it is. I don't feel like I over sensationalize anything there, right?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think so, but I think that I don't know whether or not feedback. Whether or not it has anything to do whatsoever with CM Punk, I don't know, but I just don't think that they've ever had a firm idea what they wanted to do with Colt Cabana. I felt like they wanted Colt Cabana on the roster from the beginning. I don't think that he has. I think that if Colt Cabana disappeared, just like literally disappeared from AEW, nobody would even notice.
Well,
he's been a non-factor, and I think that he's a great talent, and for whatever reason, I think he would be significantly better utilized almost anywhere else.
He'd be a big star at Ring of Honor. He could go back to ROH in a second. ROH has no connection with AEW at the moment, and be right back where he wants to be, I think. I agree wholeheartedly on all those points here. Just something to take note of as we continue to watch the pieces move around the chessboard here. After Punk's promo, Ric Flair, he tweeted out, CM Punk, we need to talk about best in the world. So on top of all the other names we've been talking about in free agency, Ric Flair has now entered the conversation as well. And I guess everybody trying to set up big business with CM Punk. That's the thing you got to try to do at the moment, right?
Well, I think that it speaks to the fact that CM Punk returning is big news, and I think that in one way or another, even Nature Boy wants to kind of like hitch his star to that wagon for a minute, and he's doing his own thing, and we've seen him recently with Andrade, and so they're all playing in this sort of same field. This really does reek sort of what they're talking about, this forbidden door where a lot of a lot of bleed through, right? Like there's WWE and then there's pretty much every place else, and there's all this bleed.
I don't know how exactly you get to it, and I don't know if Punk would want to do it because it's very much his return match and his moment. But wouldn't it be great if at All Out, him and Darby are going out at it, Darby's down, Sting steps up, baseball bat, telling Punk to stand down, and who comes out to help Punk get things under control, but arguably Sting's greatest nemesis of all time, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, helps to run Sting off and bring it back to Punk and Darby. That's a thing that could actually happen, Paul. It's a thing that is real in 2021 and possible.
I mean, it's definitely real. It's definitely possible. I'm not sure that I want to see that. I think that that's, I think that it's great for nostalgia. And I would, the one thing that I would say to you is I don't think that there's any arguably to it. I think that Sting and Ric Flair were the ultimate nemesis for each other. Sting had a few that might have fallen into that category. Flair had many that would fall into that category. But I think that in terms of, the person that made Sting was Flair. The person that cemented Sting was Flair. So, I think that those two definitely are intrinsically tied to one another.
I guess I'd maybe prefer a Flair MJF pairing against a Sting Darby Allin. That seems like it could be more fun to play with, So
yeah, I think that I don't know. I think that we're getting into a situation where we've already tried Flair as a managerial figure. We tried that in Impact a few years ago when he was there managing AJ Styles. I think that it takes somebody really special to not be completely overshadowed by Flair based on the reputation that Flair has. I think that's one thing, we've seen the history of great professional wrestlers becoming even better known as managerial roles later in their lives. But I don't think that any of those individuals have ever had a Flair-like career. In fact, there's nobody in the world who's had a Flair-like career except Flair. So for him to not be the focal point whenever he's on screen, it just really doesn't happen that much. And audiences kind of rebel against it. We saw him try that with Charlotte, and people were like, they felt it was really sad to watch Ric Flair, be a happy dad.
Yeah. Also in regards to CM Punk, on the Dan Le Batard show, Tony Khan was asked if the CM Punk investment had already paid off. Tony said, yeah, I mean, I do think so. In terms of what he's done for our business, I really believe that. As soon as we saw the results from this, before we even got started, I knew this was the best deal we could have possibly done. And, of course, Pro Wrestling Tees, this became their most selling design of all time, overtaking the Bullet Club Bone Soldier logo, which had been available for 7 years. So big money already in the bank here. I mean, I know I've heard a little bit, about what the relationship, the agreement is between those two, and we'll see where it goes. It sounds like that. I mean, if Tony's happy, I guess that's all that matters here. At least publicly, he seems very happy. I don't know how you could be making a bad deal here unless Punk was, really, really shaking you down.
Yeah, I mean, financially speaking, they are going to begin making those really, I'm guessing, because these people that they're acquiring, very high level names, we're going to see some financial deals that people are going to later on probably be on a Dark Side of the Ring episode because they're like, and they paid him this much. But I definitely think that comparisons to whatever WCW was paying the Scott Halls and the Kevin Nashes and the Hulk Hogans to make that jump, we're probably going to be looking at similar type of figures now. And I think the results are going to be similar too.
Yeah, man, a lot of money all at once, right? This roster is about to get loaded if everything sounds like it could be happening. Lastly, here in the world of CM Punk-related news, a little off the beaten path, R-Truth has decided to enter the arena. He made his feelings about Punk known while responding to a fan on TikTok who posted an audio clip from a 2014 podcast of Punk and Colt Cabana. In the clip, Punk could be heard telling the story of why he was unhappy during his final years with WWE, bringing up WWE's decision to have him and Triple H lose to R-Truth and The Miz in a tag team match at Vengeance 2011. Punk felt that the booking didn't make any business sense at the time. To wit, R-Truth said, CM Punk, you lost to me and Miz because we were hotter than you. Sorry, and I never thought you were impressive at all. Just typical entitlement, period. No joking here. This isn't funny. Ha. I'm dressed up like camouflage, trash can man, R-Truth. This felt like it was shoot straight to R-Truth here. We got a little bit over on TikTok.
Well, that aside, I think that I'm getting periodic feedback, and I don't have any idea what's going on there. So, I think that R-Truth, I think that when it comes down to it, I think R-Truth is definitely a WWE guy. I don't suspect that there is, any kind of joking intended here. R-Truth has made it very clear through his on-ring performances that they will give him something that's absolute crap. He'll turn it into gold. He'll mine it for as long as they'll allow him to. And so when you compare somebody like R-Truth, who's a super talented and very skilled in-ring competitor, who's very willing to downplay his technical abilities, to hide inside a trash can and chase a circus performer around a park to try to win a title that has zero significance. He's done that shtick for like 5 years now. And then you look at somebody like CM Punk, who's like, if you don't do what I want you to do, or you don't value me the way I think I deserve to be valued, I'm going to leave. It doesn't surprise or boggle the mind that R-Truth probably has some real choice words about CM Punk.
Yeah, as Dave In says here, he spoke as R-Truth, right? And Snake Boy here, R-Truth shooting from the hip. Damn, yeah. The whole entitled thing, it just got me kind of thinking, like, what is it about CM Punk that this audience is so rabid for, right? The anti-establishment, I can talk shit about my boss and get away with it and make more money, is really kind of like at the ethos, I think, for a whole generation of people who feel like they're never, ever going to be able to get away doing something like that because of how, work, life, payment, employment has evolved over the past 20 years, Paul.
Well, I think that a big part of it is, one of the reasons that somebody like CM Punk could be perceived as entitled is, I'm guessing that he came in to WWE, got a pretty decent paycheck to begin with. They finally, when they pushed him, he did get over. Obviously, we see that now, right. And I'm sure he was making probably a much, much higher paycheck by the time that he left, taking his ball and going home, than somebody like R-Truth. I think that R-Truth is probably talking from this position where, like, you're already entitled. You're getting much more than most of the other people on the roster, and you're still complaining. And then R-Truth's probably looking at the fact that if he left, where is he going to go? Like, what would be ahead for him? How could he do that? And for other people like him, I think that's where we're looking at the entitlement. I don't know. I think that the other part of it is just that obviously CM Punk is still hot because he left at the height of his career before anybody got to ruin it. And maybe that makes him smart because WWE did not get to devalue him.
Yeah. Fightful reporting, Pete Dunne, his contract, he has not been offered a new contract by WWE. No word on the length of his deal, but different numbers are being floated around for a new one, depending on the source. No word on if Dunne has even signed an extension or if he plans to re-sign with WWE. His contract situation is similar to one of Adam Cole's, as his deal is also coming up this summer. Cole reportedly is going to become a free agent on Friday. We don't know exactly when Pete Dunne will become a free agent, but I really have kind of become married to the idea of like a Pete Dunne and an Adam Cole coming together as like the NXT guys that are like invading AEW, a la kind of like the Outsiders. I don't really know CM Punk because he obviously was so far like, 2.0 Everrise, I guess like a little bit of that vibe, but we really haven't seen the other team come in and say, hey, you tried to take my job away from me. And I think that Pete Dunne and Adam Cole could make that case and probably get some heat, get some real good fire going under something like that.
I'm sure that there would be some interest in that. I'm not married to that idea. I do not, I want Adam Cole to go somewhere as Adam Cole, exclusively as Adam Cole. I think that Adam Cole, in my opinion, I think that the long-term potential for Adam Cole to become the face of a brand is extremely high. I've never been particularly a fan of Pete Dunne. I think he's an incredible in-ring performer, but in terms of his persona or personality, I'm just not married to it at all.
Yeah,
Adam Cole is.
That's kind of why I want him with Cole, right? Like because I still stand by one of the greatest matches I've ever seen live. Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, NXT TakeOver Chicago, absolutely burned the building to the ground. I mean, it was just an amazing match, and I'd like to see him positioned well. But I'm with you, man. The personality with Pete Dunne, it's not there like an Adam Cole is, for sure.
No, not at all. And I think that I feel like if done properly, in my opinion, I feel like it's it's maybe quite not the perfect comparison, but I feel like Adam Cole going somewhere is the equivalent of having almost to the point of when Ric Flair jumped to WWF, like back in the day. I personally view Adam Cole as the face of that brand.
Right.
And so, his going somewhere is like taking that with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It would be the first real big jump from NXT to AEW. And I'm really interested to see what a top NXT star looks and sounds like in an AEW. Just because, again, there's so much stuff you can go back to from the throes of the original NWO promos and that, us versus you and, outsiders coming in. People love that stuff. So I'm excited about it. Adam Cole, by the way, he's set to make one more WWE appearance before he becomes a free agent on Friday. WWE announced yesterday that Cole and Gargano are going to join Mattel representatives for a special live product reveal on Amazon Live today at 6 p.m. Eastern, so 5 Central. You can go check it out. The live reveal is going to see Cole and Gargano and Mattel reps show off new WWE toys and collector's items. And what do you think? Over under Adam Cole says something that everybody interprets as some kind of nod to what his next move is going to be on this call.
I'm sure that there'll be something slyly interjected there. I find it so odd that they're like, you know what? You have 1 day left. We're gonna do this. I think that I don't know. This just sounds like such a strange choice. Most corporations, when you're about to, sometimes you put in your 2 weeks, they literally thank you, and they walk you to the door right then with your shit in a box. So I'm surprised that they're you know what, we're gonna. So to me, this is actually more intriguing because to me it hints that he may not be done with the company. He may be done with NXT, but he may not be done with the company.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe, right? I mean, there's a lot of teases going on right now. Adam Cole in the main roster, I worry, right? For a great many reasons. And I'm sure it's nothing that he would have not heard before. I just go back to the Jon Moxley, the last promo he cut where he was like, I'm going to go put all the chips in on myself, right? Or there was 1 or 2 other little gambling references he made. Of course, he showed up at Double or Nothing in Vegas and, tied it all together. I don't know if we get a, hey, this Karrion Kross action figure, man, I'd go all out for this thing if I was a kid, right? Some kind of little bit like that is what I'm expecting, I think, from this call,
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I do think that, it's just, I think that it's terrible, to be honest, that someone as talented as Adam Cole even has to question whether or not they could go to the main roster of WWE and be a success. The fact that people within that company, this is what would make it's good. It would go one of 2 ways. Either it would make me super determined or it would get me the hell out of there. The fact that it doesn't appear that somebody is watching at the main roster to see what he can do and how he holds that audience at NXT in his hand. That is that's so bothersome. Like, you kept me for all these years on a brand that literally nobody apparently who's of importance on the main roster watches, but we have no faith in anybody coming up from NXT and being able to have the impact that they would on an NXT brand at that larger level. It's just been proven time and time again. It's just a bad choice.
Hey, if he, he's gonna be he's gonna be like an electrician if he comes to the main roster. Everybody's got to have a gimmick, right? He comes out smashing wires together. Adam Cole. Electric, all electric Adam Cole. Hey, put it out there, right? That's the kind of shit that I worry about, Paul. Just being candid. I don't know, man. It's so bad right now. Like, being a talent transitioning to that main roster, it's bad.
Need we go any farther than carrying Cross? So it's
so bad. Update here on some talents from Raw before we get to the Seth Turner interview, and then we'll dive into the mailbag, talk a little bit about Vince and Virgil. Very excited about this conversation. First of all, both these items coming from PWInsider.com. First, John Morrison set to be a babyface on Raw. Raw saw Miz snap, turn on Morrison after weeks of tension. Miz versus Morrison is announced for this Monday's Raw. The babyface turn is a new direction for Morrison. The angle on Monday's Raw is not something planned to be a one-and-done deal that ends with Miz and Morrison getting back together where they started. So this is it. We're off into the races. And of all the things on Raw that have me, I'm really excited to see where this goes. I really like Johnny Drip Drip.
I don't like Johnny Drip Drip, but I like John Morrison as a talent. And if it's going to help to, shine a light on somebody who's an incredible singles competitor, then great. And if this Johnny Drip Drip character is what it took for, the WWE to sort of recognize this guy's talent, then that's where we are.
Yeah. And Miz is a great heel. He's elevated a lot of people. A much more serious, kind of straightforward John Morrison, I think, is definitely in the cards here. And, look, is this the sleeper? Is this the guy, right? I mean, there are very few people on Raw. You got Riddle, right, who's with Randy right now, so he's kind of in the tag picture. But, Drew McIntyre, obviously, is getting a great reaction. But the kind of fun factor that a John Morrison is bringing right now to his character, I don't know. It's really special, I think, what John's doing right now on Monday Night Raw.
Well, I think that we have seen various iterations of John, obviously, with all the various different surnames, like, Nitro and, Morrison and Drip Drip. So I think they've been looking for whatever is going to encapsulate him. And I think that this gives him something to sort of like do that makes him a little different, sets him apart. I like a more serious type of performer myself, but at the same time, you cannot slight the guy's talent. He's incredibly talented in the ring. And we saw him in Impact as a major single star there with the title runs. And I wasn't so thrilled with that character persona of him either. So maybe this is what it needs to like move him to that next echelon of his career.
Yeah, we have here from Bryan Bills 1417. John Morrison's been underutilized since he came back. Ate crap, but hopefully it's his time to shine. And I'm really optimistic here about what they're going to do with who Dino Garofalo is calling. Or this one's about Miz. Miz is one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time, bar none. Even people that I really respect in the business, I find, still sleep on Miz sometimes. They're like, whatever. I mean, how do you argue at this point? The guy's had, 15 years in the WWE, multiple title reigns, main evented WrestleMania, worked with pretty much every major name for the past 20 years. And how do you slight the guy at this point, Paul?
I think that the way you slight him is by never considering him a serious contender. He's somebody who can always slide into the picture very easily, be heated up pretty well, but we've seen on a consistent basis that he never stays. They never keep him hot for very long, and his role is almost always semi-transitional. So I think that that's how you slight him. Like the fact that ultimately, when we start to look at the numbers, there's not that many people that we can compare to him. But when we look at the long-term impact, that way people think of him in a few years, it may not live up to what he actually has done or accomplished.
I don't know. I'm a big Miz fan. I think that he's over delivered quite a bit in his career when called upon. I don't know that I would consider him like Roddy Piper. I mean, I know there's a lot of similarities you could draw there, you know. But like, yeah, I guess the closest I could compare him to would be a Piper. But people loved Piper's in ring work, and like there was all these great matches he had with people that you don't really hear people kind of have that same, like you say, love for Miz's in ring work that they had for Piper's.
I think that ultimately, I think that when everything is said and done in his career and he decides to, call it quits, I think that he will definitely be revered and respected in retrospect. I think that it's, while it's hard to be a living legend, I think that it's hard to fall into that category because people are always expecting more from you, wanting more from you. What have you done for me lately type of thing. And where it comes to him, it's like, well, there is nothing left for him to do. That's why they're running him around talking about the 2-time Grand Slam champion and all these things. He's literally done it all. I just don't think that in the process of it, that he's ever really gotten his due the way that other people seem to be celebrated.
Sure. Also from Raw, again, for PW Insider, WWE now moving forward with the idea that Ali and Mansoor are going to be a babyface tag team on Raw. Mansoor has been a babyface for better part of a while now, while Ali has been playing the heel. Now it looks like they're moving into being a full-blown babyface team. It looks like Mansoor and Ali are going to go up against Veer and Shanky next week, possibly Jinder teaming with Veer or Shanky. They've also recently feuded with Mace and T-Bar. And look, I know that Mansoor is getting the push he's getting because they need a Saudi babyface. It's very important to them. All of that said, it's hard for me to I like Mansoor. I think he's got a good look. I think he's good in the ring. I don't really why he's getting the push, I could see why makes some people probably roll their eyes or something like that. But I honestly like him and Ali together. I think them as a white meat babyface tag team. I don't hate that at all, Paul.
I first of all, I met him as Manny, like that, okay. like that's what he came from here in the Bay Area. I worked a few of my very early pro wrestling experiences with him. Oh, super duper nice guy. Okay. And a lot of local friends. But, I think that the part about this that makes me roll my eyes is like, you've got 4 brown guys and they all are suddenly involved in this feud. And they're from all, it's Ali and Mansoor and Shanky and Veer. And it's like, well, there's something about that just strikes me as so odd, why is it this way? But at the same time, whatever is going to allow them to develop any kind of depth in the tag team division, I'm for that. Of course, I don't think that these guys are going to ever find themselves in that contention rank necessarily in the very near future, but the WWE is in serious need of tag team. So whatever they're doing to develop some, I'm for it.
Yeah. And look, you're not look, Doom Tribe T, great observation. Ninja Mortis, the whole same race, so make them a tag team passes. Like your observation about this, and there's another one from Daniel Price here that is a little bit more risque, so I'm not going to read it. It makes whatever. But you're not the only one who notices. It's not. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it is a little weird. They all get lumped together, right, in that one kind of space. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very I don't know. I think that what it says to people who are not Caucasian is like, oh, if you are brown, that you all must know each other, that you're the same. It's like when people say to Hispanics or Latinos, like, oh, you're Mexican, right? And they're like, no, I'm from Guatemala. And the white person's like, that's what I said, you're from Mexico. It's like, no, they're completely different countries. They have their own cultures. They do share a language. But in the case of Mansoor and Ali, they don't even share a language. You know what I mean? It's like something completely different. But it's that idea. I used to jokingly say this when I was from Ohio. When I lived in Ohio, I was like, in Ohio, there's 4 kinds of people, like white people, black people, Mexicans, and Chinese people. And if you're not, no matter where you are from Asia, they think you're Chinese. No matter where you are from Latin America, they think you're Mexican. So it's kind of speaks to that very like narrow focus of nationalities or ethnicities.
All right. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for a great conversation about all the news the past 24 hours to start the show. Thank you to Seth Turner and Andy Melnoski for that great talk as well. Again, this weekend, the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame induction ceremony is going down. It's in Albany. It's just outside the airport. It's you can go find the information. IWPHF.com, I believe, is the domain. I'll be there. Virgil will be there. And we're going to talk about Virgil here in just a second. So yesterday was Vince McMahon's 76th birthday. And that has become the subject of our Wink Daily poll today at Wink Daily, WINC Daily. That's the account to follow. We're on our road to 1,300 followers right now. So in honor of Vince's 76th birthday yesterday, former WWE superstar Virgil set up his infamous autograph and merchandise table on Vince's Star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and took to Instagram to wish his former boss a happy birthday. Here is what Virgil wrote to celebrate Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr.'s 76th. He says, "Happy B-Day to my second favorite Vincent, a.k.a. Vincenzo, a.k.a. the Gorgonzola Godfather, to my unborn children, a.k.a. the almighty appetizer to my beef. Today's hustle will be dedicated to you. My only wish for your B-Day is for you to get my video game, #Meat Sauce Madness, and stuff yourself with the most gourmet OG in the game. Sending my love from the man with the biggest breadstick in the back to the man with the biggest meatballs. Love ya, Virgil." First of all, this is why I think that he's probably smarter than we all think. This is a wonderful bit of viral online marketing here for the Meat Sauce Madness video game.
I feel like I got several viruses just from me reading it.
That was a clever way to get a lot of people talking about Virgil and his crazy game. I think that I think he's in on it all with these like this smart ad agency that's just like, "Hey, dude, we got another crazy idea. You want to go set up your merch table?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it. Like, sounds like help make some money." This is smart stuff here, Paul. It's smart, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, he has to have some kind of income because the dude's all of a sudden on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, setting up on the stars.
We have here Ninja Mortis, by the way. Wow. In response to my reading of that, Daniel Price, Gorgonzola Godfather, made me realize the man has lost his mind. God, maybe he should be getting the Andy Kaufman Award. And this is it's good. It's good. Alternative comedy right here. So my question today, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, I'm like, I don't really want to do a Virgil question because it's just going to go off the effing rails. So let's do a Vince question. Vince is 76. Hypothetically, and I don't even think hypothetically, I think it's probably in the cards that Vince is going to do at least one more meaningful thing on WWE TV. So what would you like to see that thing be? What do you still want to see Vince do on WWE TV? The options I gave you were feud with Triple H and Steph, return to commentary, manage a talent, or other, something else. Now we got 420 votes. Nice. Love it. 35% feud with Triple H and Steph. Right behind that, at 32.6%, was return to commentary. 15.5% said manage a talent, about the same 16.9%. Something else. Paul, if Vince comes back, what do you want to see this man do on TV if he's got one more meaningful thing to give back as a character?
I want him to walk to the ring and hand the reins over to somebody else. I was overwhelmed with the write-ins and people wanting him to retire. I think that, what I would like to see him do is come out and acknowledge the people and hand the reins over to presumably Triple H at this point, because Triple H, through the storytelling and work that he did on NXT, has won my faith. So I think that, that would be what I would want him to do. In terms of anything else that I've had my fill of him, I think that he's, obviously made a tremendous and wonderful contribution to the world of professional wrestling. Certainly changed my life because of my viewing history as a WWE fan and WWF fan before that. But in terms of seeing him on television, you know, I've already seen, like, unless like Bobby Lashley wants to beat him down because he took a title off of him all those years ago, I don't care to see him.
You know, I don't, you know, the manage a talent thing. I thought about it, especially after our conversation earlier about how to use legends. You know, could you pick could you take a hand-picked young talent like a Parker Boudreaux or somebody like that, where Vince is like, this guy gets extra privileges because he's my guy, right? Like, I don't hate that. It'd be kind of a different way to use Vince. He doesn't need to be ringside choking people on the second rope. You know, he could just have an investment in a talent, right? And everybody resents that. The feud of Triple H and Steph seems like a layup, and it seems like it's time, honestly. You know, Triple H should come out and sit down Indian style at the top of that ramp and do his own little pipe bomb here, probably get everything going again. You know, but I'm being dead serious, right? That's something that could actually probably maybe get them back on the tracks. But the return to commentary one, and it did way better than I was expecting. Like, I thought it was not going to do well, but it did almost as well as the feud with Hunter and Steph. You know, I don't know if the long term it's a good idea, but McAfee ain't going to be there tomorrow night. We started the show talking about how he's got COVID. And like a 1-2-8 return of Vince McMahon on commentary, as Dave in says here, would be fascinating, right? Wouldn't you love to hear Vince, who he puts over, how he buries heels? Like, I do think one last hurrah for Vince in the booth. I would enjoy that. I would love that.
I don't know. I mean, I think that I'm not sure that I would enjoy it. You know, like, I think that it could be very interesting to hear like what he does, because you know nobody's going to be directing him. That might be fascinating, like how he goes about it. But in terms of, you know, when he was on commentary, that was before he became a character in his own circus. So it's a situation where how do you roll back the level of knowledge that we've gained about him over these years to allow him to do anything but perhaps come out and play the heel commentary role?
Yeah, I don't know. Just thinking weird about it. Just trying to think outside the box. I'm kind of, you know, burned. But anyway, we have 6 Rings 9880. Beat Lashley with a punch for the title, and then a 12-year feud with Goldberg until WrestleMania 2033, when he himself is beat by a punch by a 56-year-old John Cena, who then feuds with a 57-year-old Lashley for the next 12 years, obviously still being head of creative because it's so good. Wow. You know, really quite an idea. Sorry, Rocky. Bye. I don't want to see one more run with Austin McMahon. At Dina Garofalo. Dina, give Shane Stocks to Baron Corbin and treat him as his new chosen one. Wow. That could be something. Combat Sports 14 saying managing a talent would be really interesting. Put a lot of pressure on whatever that talent is. True.
I saw that comment.
Yeah, it's true. I'll retweet it. We have at the Bubster 1, as Vince used to say on commentary, cover that man. I don't get it. At T-Dome 2K, what if we got Vince McMahon on commentary on SmackDown since Pat and Cole are quarantined? Oh, is Michael Cole also quarantining because of this? I don't know. I hadn't seen that.
I don't know that, but it makes sense because they've been together. You know, they were they're together. So
yeah,
they could need to have a whole new team.
Yeah, Samantha here saying he might have to do commentary this Friday since Cole should be in quarantine. So yeah, a couple people chiming in with that. We'll have to look into it. Yeah, there's a farewell speech, retire, get some sleep.
Lots of retires. A lot of retires.
Feud. Okay, we have apologize. All right. We have at It Begins 2012. Make a new corporation. And then, yeah, a lot of go away, retire, resigns. Okay, retire. I get it. You guys don't want Vince on TV. Got it. All right. Let's see. Well, a couple write-ins here. We have at Undead Saints fan. Triple H or Stephanie has what it takes to take over the leadership role in WWE. Hence the reason I see the WWE being sold to Peacock or another company. So saying no power struggle needed here. Wouldn't it be interesting if Vince introduced Nick Khan as an on-air character? I don't think that's out of the question. The guy's getting so much heat right now.
I mean, he's, as talked about as half the people on the main roster. And
He
certainly
really is.
more talked about than any of the storylines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really is. It is interesting with Vince. You know, I don't know that Vince will ever die. I'm convinced Vince might become a cyborg and live to maybe forever, right? But like when the day comes to reflect on Vince McMahon, there's going to be this like massive outpouring of love that is going to then start to waterfall into some of the craziest, weirdest, uncomfortable stories that people may have ever heard. Because since he's like not alive, there's not like as much he could do about it when those are out there. It is going to be, whew, it is going to be a weird one, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it is that, a few years ago, one of my very, very close friends passed away unexpectedly. And it, of course, besides the devastation, of emotional devastation that comes with that, within a short order, the part that became highly irritating is how people turned that individual into a saint. And I was like, you don't know, you do not know this person. Like I spent a lot of time with that person. And so I don't like when people canonize somebody just because they passed away. I think that, because then all of a sudden it's in poor taste to talk ill of the dead. And I was like, well, if the dead was a douche, then like that doesn't change because they died. But it will be very interesting to hear what kind of stories people share when the repercussion element is removed.
And lastly here, our final thought for the day, coming from Daniel Price. Vince is going to go Futurama style head in a jar. And
that's the first thing I thought, the cryogenically saved head, Walt Disney style.
Just sitting at Gorilla with like headsets over the jar. Vince just yelling through the jar what is going on. I see it maybe too vividly. All right, we're about 2 minutes away from Andy Melnowski's conversation with Seth Turner debuting on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel. Paul, I didn't realize how long we'd gone today. Thank you for damn near going Broadway with me here. I know you got a real busy day because this afternoon you are going to get all gussied up and you're going to be chatting with Chelsea Green, or Polio Del Mar is going to be chatting with Chelsea Green. And we're going to be running that interview on the daily tomorrow. We're going to put it up over on our YouTube channel as well. You want to tell everybody a little bit about, like, tee it up here a bit for tomorrow?
Yeah, like, let's fingers crossed, because Chelsea has a really, really busy schedule right now. And of course, Chelsea, fingers crossed. But she's very excited about it, and I'm very excited about it as well. Chelsea and I will be together this weekend in St. Louis, Saturday and potentially Sunday, I'm guessing, for NWA Empower and NWA 73, the big pay-per-views available on Fight TV. Be sure to check those out. But for sure, join me and Chelsea tomorrow right here on Wink Daily after the show for a great conversation.
Total success. It's about
total success. Exactly. Like willing it into existence.
It'll, you know what? And if it doesn't happen, I'm like a dragon sitting on my pile of gold right now. I have so much content. So
yeah, I mean, we always have great interviews to be featured here on the show, but fingers crossed that tomorrow will be Chelsea and me.
Yeah, 100%. All right. And of course, come if you like the Wrestling Daily, support WrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials, and at night after the big shows, the Wrestling podcast goes live just like this. So you can find that on your preferred podcast platform. Paul, anything else you want to put over here before we wrap up today?
You know what? Right now, it's all about getting into the weekend of NWA. Like I said, join us on Fight TV on Saturday, the 28th for NWA Empower. And then again, Sunday, NWA 73, the big celebration. I'm very excited because I've never done a fan fest. So I'm going to be at Fan Fest with them too. And then as soon as that's done, it's right on to Chicago, right there with you, Nick. Chicago, Game Changer Wrestling's big weekend, Effie's Big Gay Brunch on Sunday, September 5th. Craziest schedule I've had in wrestling ever in my life.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Yes, I'll be in Albany, New York again, International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Come say hi. But then, yeah, I'll see you next week in Chicago. I'll be covering every AEW show in Chicago. It's going to be a barn burner for sure. And I'll be at Effie's Big Gay Brunch with Liz. And I shot Effie a DM yesterday. He hasn't got back to me. I don't know if I'm allowed to bring my own Prosecco and charcuterie tray, but it's a wonder. It's a wonder that I have, since it's a brunch, right?
Oh, for the love of God, Nick, just because you eat things off a cutting board does not make it classy.
Makes a brunch sometimes, unless it's a steak, that makes it dinner. So.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Look, I'm not going to tell anybody not to try to smuggle in their own food because, truth be told, when we were in Tampa back for WrestleMania doing big gay brunch there, people were complaining because apparently like the hot dogs were super expensive and super terrible. So by all means, smuggle your own brunch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I asked permission. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have like, hey, is that a bottle of Prosecco in your pants? You're just excited to be at Effie's big gay brunch. You know what I'm saying? All right. Hey,
maybe well, you know what? It's a GCW thing. I was going to say, don't bring your own knife. Maybe that would make it better, but it's GCW. Just cut it with some broken glass.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And why would I bring my own knife with me? Right? I keep it on my desk. I use it.
Hell.
I used open mail and stuff. Anyway, thank you all so much for sticking around. This has been a great show.
Like a low budget Drew McIntyre out there with his sword. This is Angela. Like, that's a letter opener. Put it down.
That's my little laser gun. I have too many things on my desk. Hey, we're done. Go watch Andy and Seth. It's premiering right now. I'm at Nick_House. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked,